So in sets, these numbers are very important to know. So we have the first type of numbers called natural numbers. So natural numbers are called countable numbers. Countable numbers. So countable numbers are what? Countable numbers are. So the symbol of natural numbers is denoted like this. This is the symbol for natural numbers. So let's try and list the countable numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So in a set, when we are listing numbers that are not ending, we will use ellipses like this. We say like this. So there are more obvious numbers to come. So those things are called natural numbers. They are countable numbers. Like when you are counting learners in a class, you use countable numbers. You start at 1. You cannot say 1,1, 1,2. You will only say 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. You don't know the last number. So now we're talking about whole numbers. Whole numbers are also, some people they say whole numbers are countable numbers. Countable numbers that include 0. Are countable numbers that include 0. Remember, natural numbers, they don't include 0. So the symbol for whole numbers is n, then 0 down there. Understand? Then you say equal to, you put your curly brackets, then they start from 0 is 0, then 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. You put your ellipses. Understand? If you can check here, starting from here to here are natural numbers. That is what they said is natural numbers that they include 0. So now let's talk about integers. Integers, this is the definition of integers. Integers are what? Are negative and positive natural numbers. Natural numbers that include 0. Understand? So this is the symbol for integers is Z. Understand? So let's try and list those numbers. So since well they say they are negative and positive what? Natural numbers. So we don't know the first negative number. So we're going to use our ellipses like this. We can start at -4. -4 is a negative natural number. Understand? Then we go to what? To -3, -2, -1. So they said they include 0, which means we put 0. Then we have what? They said positive natural numbers, which means we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. Hence we put our ellipses. These things are called integers. So let's talk about negative integers. What are negative integers? Negative integers are negative natural numbers. They are what? Negative natural numbers. They are negative natural numbers. So the symbol for negative integers is something like this. It's integer, then it has a negative there on its exponent, ne? Which is equal to, we put our what? Our curly brackets, then we list those negative integers. Negative integers, we don't have 0 there, which means we're going to have -1, -2, -3, -4. So since we want end, we put our ellipses. Or you can put it this way. You can put it this way. You put your ellipses. You say what? You say negative. Sorry, made a mistake. You put your ellipsis there and say what? This is the same as what? You put your ellipsis, you say -4, -3, -2, -1. Understand? This is where you are going to end. Understand? When you are trying to write them using your number line from your basics mathematics. Understand? But since well, there is no order in listing what elements, that's the definition of a set. So let's talk about positive integers. Positive integers are what? Are positive natural numbers. Natural numbers or integers. So the symbol for positive integers is Z, then it has a positive exponent there. We say equal sign, our curly brackets. So since well is positive integers, we are going to have what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. We cannot include what? We cannot include these negative numbers of integers and also this 0 because they are not what? They are not positive. But we are going to use starting from 1 going there. That is why we call them what? Positive integers. So now let's talk about even numbers. You must know even numbers, they are multiples of 2. Sorry, I made a mistake. Even numbers, they are integers that have multiple of 2. Or you can say what? Instead of saying multiple of 2, you can say a factor of 2. You can easily remove a common factor of 2, then you remain with an integer. So it's what? Is multiple of 2. Understand? So even numbers are like this. You can say even number, you open like this, you put your curly brackets. So even numbers that most people know, they know 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, but they don't know that those numbers, they can also be negative. Understand? Which means we can have what? -2, -4, -6, and -8. And some people, they don't know 0 is also what? An integer. Why? Because 0 also have a factor of 2 like this. 2 times 0 is the same as 0. So making a 0 an even number. So which means when I'm listing even numbers, since well I don't know where they start and where they end, I can easily say negative what? -6, -4, -2, then 0, 1, not 1, 2, 4, and so on. Understand? Those things are what? Are even numbers. All those numbers, they have a factors of 2. Understand? They have a factors of 2. So let's check odd numbers. What are odd numbers? Odd numbers are what? Are even numbers that they added 1 on them. Understand? They are what? Even number that has been added a 1 on them. So you take all those even numbers, you add 1, you add 1, you add 1, you add 1. Understand? So let's take our odd numbers are like this. You take all these even numbers, you add 1. Like -6 plus 1 is what? Is -5. Then -4 plus 1 is what? Is -3. -2 plus 1 is what? Is -1. 0 plus 1 is what? Is 1. 2 plus 1 is what? Is 3. 4 plus 1 is what? Is 5. those things are what? Are odd numbers. So 0 is not an what? An odd number. So now let's talk about prime numbers. Prime numbers are numbers that they are divisible by 1 and by themselves only. So that thing means what? Means that a prime number can only have a multiple of 1 or itself, like this. They have what? They are divisible. They are divisible by 1 and themselves. Or you can say what? You can say they have a factor of 1 only. Understand? They have a factor of what? Of 1 only. For example, let's say these are prime numbers. Numbers that have a factors of 1 is what? Numbers that are factors of 1 is 1. 1 only have a factor of 1 is only 1. Ne? And 2, 3, you cannot say 4 because 4 don't have a factor of 1 only, a multiple of 1 only. 4 can be written as what? As 2 times 2. Understand? So 4 cannot be a what? A prime number. So we put 5 because there is no way you can write 5 except multiplying 5 by 1. Understand? Then we cannot say 6 because 6 is the same as 6 times 1 and also what? And also 3 times 2. So 6 is not a prime number because it does not have a factor of what? It has a factor of 1 and a factor of 2, not 1 only. A prime number has a factor of 1 only. So, and another one is a 7. A 7 can be written as 7 times 1 only. Then we go to 8. 8 is not a prime number because 8 can be written as 8 times 1 and also what? 4 times 2, or I can say what? 2 times 2 times 2. That's how we can write 8. And so on. These are prime numbers. Understand? So now let's try and talk about what? Rational numbers. Rational numbers are numbers that can be written as a fraction. Are numbers that can be written as a fraction, A over B. Understand? Can be written as what? As A over B. And if you can check, A must be any integer and B must be any integer, which means A and B must be element of what? Of any integer. Understand? Which means A can be what? Can be -1, which is an integer. Then we have what? We can also have what? 4. 4 is also a what? An integer. Understand? So any number that can be written as a fraction is a what? Rational number. Also 4 over 1 is a rational number. So that thing basically means what? All integers are also rational numbers because they can be written as a fraction. Understand? 4 is an integer which can be written as a fraction of 4 over 1. Understand? But then if you can check this thing, the value of B can never be equal to 0 because if it becomes 0, it becomes what? Undefined. Understand? It becomes what? Undefined, which means B can be element of any integer, but B must not be equal to 0, but A can be equal to 0. For example, 0 over 1 is a rational number because it's an integer. Understand? So let's talk about irrational numbers. Irrational numbers are numbers that are in decimal form, but they cannot be converted into a fraction. Understand? They are numbers that are in decimal form and they cannot be written as a fraction. Cannot be written like this. Cannot be written as a fraction, A over B. Understand? For example, if you can check 1.5 can be written as a fraction, which is the same as what? 3/2. Understand? But if I say what is the value of what? Of 1 point what? Of 1 point, let's check if a number that can be written as in decimal form and cannot give us a what? A fraction. Understand? The number is like, let me check a number. Let me check. Yeah, for example, 1, 3, 8, 7, 6. This number cannot be written as a fraction. There is no way you can write that number as a fraction. Understand? So those things, we call them what? We call them irrational numbers. Understand? So let's talk about real numbers. Real numbers, a real number is any number that you can define. Understand? Is any number. A real number is any number. For example, that number can be a negative square root of 2, can be a 0, can be a 1.1, which is a rational number, can be an integer. It can be anything it wants. That number is anything. Can be e, which is, I think, is 1 point something, and it can be also a pi. Understand? A real number is any number that you can see. Understand? That is a what? A real number. Understand? So something that cannot be a real number is like infinity or square root of -1. Those things are not what? Real numbers. And also 3 square root of -1 is a real number, because this thing is simply equal to 1. That thing is a what? Is a real number. So don't confuse those things and say, I said something that actually, sorry, the answer is -1 here, and say I said anything that is in a sad, which has a negative, is not a real number. Understand? You must know those things. So these are the important numbers that you must know by heart, because they won't give you them. So a piece of advice is that you can take a piece of a paper and list those numbers without writing their definitions. Then you write the definition, you write those numbers to ensure that you know those numbers by heart.